In today's global economy, the pursuit of lower labor costs has driven companies to seek alternative locations for outsourcing productions. While Southeast Asia and India have made strides in attracting manufacturing investments, they are unlikely to replace China as the global manufacturing hub in the near future. China's well-developed industrial system, massive domestic market, and strong government support for manufacturing give it a formidable advantage. However, Southeast Asia offers compelling advantages such as access to regional markets, government support, infrastructure development, skilled workforce, intellectual property protection, cultural compatibility, and language proficiency. As Southeast Asia enhances its manufacturing grounds, the region is poised to play a growing role in global manufacturing networks, fostering economic integration and regional cooperation. Let us delve deep into Southeast Asian potentials and its ability to attract the outsourced manufacturing.
China's manufacturing activity fell unexpectedly in April for the first time in 3 months. That is bad news for a country that is trying to bounce back from just 3% growth last year.
According to a study by the McKinsey Global Institute, companies can save 30 to 50% on labor costs by outsourcing to countries with lower wages. In 2022, the global outsourcing market was valued at approximately $1.2 trillion. Top outsourcing destinations included India, China, the Philippines, Vietnam, and Malaysia. Companies such as Apple, Nike, and Amazon have already embraced outsourcing to countries like Vietnam, Indonesia, and India to capitalize on lower labor costs.
Yeah, that's right. And so Apple is still heavily reliant on China, Deirdre. And what we're starting to see, though, especially this year, is them shift over, and I know Seema's going to talk about this in a minute, but shift over in a more significant way to India. Whereas the last generation of iPhones, for example, they didn't start making that generation until this year.
This poses challenges for the Chinese economy, where the labor costs are rising, leading to potential job losses and reduced growth. Chinese officials are increasingly concerned about outsourcing, as companies in high-cost regions like Guangdong, Jiangsu, Shanghai, and Zhejiang are being encouraged to relocate their production facilities inland, rather than outsource to countries like Vietnam. China is realizing that in a world of global competition, outsourcing is not a one-way street. This trend mirrors historical patterns seen in Western countries, where manufacturers relocated to low-cost regions and eventually moved production overseas. Just as Japan challenged the United States, South Korea and Taiwan challenged Japan, and China emerged as a manufacturing powerhouse. Chinese businesses are now experiencing the appeal and consequences of outsourcing to lower-cost Asian countries, Mexico, Africa, and even the United States itself. While the Chinese government can exert control and influence over domestic manufacturers through subsidies, loans, and trade barriers, it is unlikely to completely halt outsourcing in the long run. As Chinese manufacturing transitions from export-oriented to a more domestic-oriented and consumption-based focus, Chinese consumers will demand quality products at the lowest possible price, even if it means manufacturing in other countries. Chinese manufacturers are improving the quality of their goods and shifting towards higher-end manufacturing, making outsourcing a likely future trend in China, similar to what has been observed in the West.
The official data showed China's Manufacturing Purchasing Managers Index declined to 49.2 last month from 51.9 in March. Any number below the 50 level indicates contraction. This is the first contraction in the manufacturing index since December, when it stood at 47.
China, once the linchpin of the consumer electronics industry, is facing an exodus of manufacturing due to factors such as supply chain disruptions, rising labor costs, and increased competition from local manufacturers. Major companies like Hasbro, Sony, and Samsung are relocating their operations to countries like Vietnam, Thailand, and the Philippines, where labor costs are lower and market dynamics are more favorable. South Korea, in particular, has implemented policies to encourage reshoring, leading to a steady rise in the number of South Korean companies bringing production back home from China. The digitalization of production has also played a role, with companies realizing the benefits of building highly automated smart factories in their home countries. This shift presents a golden opportunity for Southeast Asian countries, as the relocation and reshoring of manufacturing have resulted in increased foreign direct investment. While the economic impact of the pandemic temporarily affected investment flows, the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, ASEAN, recorded its highest ever inflows in 2019. Southeast Asia has long been recognized as a hub for low-wage assembly work, and the confluence of major trends now presents a golden opportunity for the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, ASEAN, to move up the manufacturing value chain. The region's extensive manufacturing base, coupled with Industry 4.0 technologies and the push for lower greenhouse gas emissions, creates favorable conditions for growth. The Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, RCEP, a new trade pact, is expected to facilitate increased trade flow and investment between ASEAN and its trade partners. By seizing these opportunities, ASEAN could generate up to $600 billion in additional manufacturing output annually by 2030, attract $22 billion more in foreign direct investment, and create 140,000 new jobs per year. The region already hosts manufacturing clusters, including electronics in Malaysia and Vietnam, automobiles and packaged foods in Thailand, machinery and petrochemicals in Indonesia, and semiconductors and aerospace components in Singapore. Manufacturing exports from ASEAN have consistently outpaced the global average, with notable growth in higher-value goods such as machinery and electronics. For instance, Chinese company TCL established a TV plant in Vietnam to serve both the ASEAN and global markets, while South Korean business groups have made substantial investments across various industries in Vietnam. Since 2015, manufacturers have sought low-cost sites and ASEAN economies have increased investments, driving significant domestic capital formation. For instance, Indonesia's Salim Group invested $956 million to expand domestic manufacturing capacity for food products. Likewise, Vietnam's Vin Group poured $3.5 billion into its automotive subsidiary, VinFast, establishing a factory capable of producing 250,000 cars annually.
Vietnam reduced extreme poverty from 50% just 25 years ago to 3% today.
Several global trends are propelling ASEAN's manufacturing sector to a new level. The region boasts a large and dynamic domestic market, with a population of 660 million and a GDP of $3 trillion, and a rapidly growing middle class projected to reach 350 million by 2030, offers a substantial consumer market. As economies recover from the COVID-19 crisis, the regional economy is projected to grow at an average rate of 5% per year. Additionally, the rising economic nationalism and trade frictions between the United States and China have prompted companies to reassess their manufacturing and sourcing strategies, leading to an increasing shift toward regional supply chains. ASEAN, with its low costs, specialized skills, and access to Western and Asian markets, becomes an attractive destination for new factory locations. Government support and incentives also play a crucial role in attracting foreign investors. Vietnam, for example, offers tax breaks, subsidies, and infrastructure development support for foreign investors in the manufacturing sector.
The main opportunities that we see from our side is power generation, both coal, but also gas and a lot of renewables. Wind is coming up strongly and hydro has always been very strong in the country.
The government provides a 10-year tax holiday for companies investing in certain high-tech industries. Malaysia also offers incentives, including tax breaks, subsidies, and infrastructure support, with a 10-year tax holiday for investments in specific manufacturing clusters. Thailand provides tax breaks, subsidies, and infrastructure development support, with a 5-year tax holiday for investments in designated manufacturing zones. Manufacturing has been the largest recipient of FDI in the region, accounting for over 40% of total. Likewise, infrastructure development in Southeast Asia has witnessed significant investments. Vietnam, for instance, has undergone extensive infrastructure improvements with the construction of new highways, railroads, airports, and expanded ports.
Infrastructure in Vietnam today remains well behind many other developing countries, and there's still a lot of work to do if you look at the airports, the roads, and especially the rail.
Similarly, Malaysia and Thailand have embarked on substantial infrastructure development endeavors, including the construction of highways, rail networks, airports, and the expansion of ports. Over the past decade, the region has invested a remarkable $1 trillion in infrastructure development. Likewise, Southeast Asia boasts a large and expanding pool of skilled workers. Vietnam, Malaysia, and Thailand exemplify this trend, with a strong focus on education and investments in skill training programs. According to the World Bank, Southeast Asia possesses the world's fastest-growing workforce. The ASEAN region boasts the highest literacy rate in Asia and ranks third in terms of the number of university graduates on the continent. Moreover, it has experienced the fastest-growing number of STEM graduates in Asia, highlighting the region's skilled workforce capable of driving innovation and research and development initiatives. Likewise, language proficiency, particularly in English, is notable in Southeast Asia, making it an appealing investment destination for foreign companies seeking effective communication with local counterparts. Singapore, with 90% of Singaporeans fluent in English, and Malaysia, with 68% of Malaysians fluent in English, offer viable communication possibilities for foreign companies. Approximately 48% of Thais can speak English fluently, providing additional communication avenues. The Economist Intelligence Unit study reveals that Southeast Asia holds the highest average English proficiency score in Asia, surpassing the global average. The ASEAN region has also established free trade agreements with major economies such as China, Japan, South Korea, Australia, and New Zealand, among others. These agreements facilitate the movement of goods, services, and investments across borders, creating opportunities for companies to expand their operations and tap into larger consumer markets. However, on the flip side, despite efforts by Southeast Asia and India to attract manufacturing investments, they are unlikely to replace China as the global manufacturing hub in the near future. Southeast Asian regions and India primarily engage in labor-intensive and low-value-added manufacturing, facing challenges such as incomplete industrial chains and low labor efficiency.
Hearing a lot more companies who are moving out of China, wanting to come because they find the policies a lot more attractive, not just the PLI, but overall the ecosystem is now far more facilitative of such companies coming out to locate themselves in India.
We make videos on current issues. Support us through your likes, share, and subscribe our channel as well. In contrast, China retains significant advantages as a manufacturing center, thanks to its well-developed industrial system and a massive domestic market that continues to attract foreign companies. In 2020, global companies reported $1.4 trillion in domestic sales in China, surpassing their $900 billion in exports, highlighting the attractiveness of China's local market. For example, Apple's decision to manufacture its iPhone 13 in an Indian factory owned by Foxconn showcases India's efforts to become a global manufacturing powerhouse by reducing bureaucratic red tapeism and attracting investment.
That India is trying to bring some of Apple's iPad production to the country. Apple, or India rather, is producing the lower cost iPhone models for a couple years now, and earlier this year, Apple begun producing its flagship iPhone 14 in India.
Vietnamese factories are still primarily engaged in low-end assembly, and Vietnam's export capacity is becoming overloaded, with higher shipping costs to the U.S. compared to China due to limited direct shipping vessels. Chinese factories in Vietnam heavily rely on raw materials and parts from China, causing production disruptions when supply chains are blocked. India, on the other hand, with its huge domestic market and young population, has attracted Chinese smartphone makers like Xiaomi and Oppo to set up factories. However, tensions between India and China have resulted in restrictions on Chinese companies, including app bans and allegations of illegal money transfers. In essence, Southeast Asia offers compelling advantages such as access to regional markets, government support and incentives, infrastructure development, a skilled workforce, intellectual property protection, cultural compatibility, and language proficiency. These factors contribute to Southeast Asia's appeal as an investment destination and support its ongoing economic growth. As companies look for alternatives other than Chinese factories, Southeast Asia presents a blossoming opportunity to host them. However, the infrastructure and the supply chain will take time to establish ASEAN to take full advantage of the arising opportunities. Thanks for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe our channel for more interesting videos.